Good evening and thank you for joining us. Some concerning news from the Regional Health Sciences Centre tonight. The anesthesia department has had to scale back services due to critical staffing shortages.
And that could lead to delays or other problems for those in need of some surgeries. Mitchell Ringos reports.
The changes announced in an internal memo will see the provision of anesthesia services adjusted starting May 1st. The decision was made with the group and other teams, which means anesthesia consults in the pre-admission clinic will now only be available on Tuesdays and Thursdays, dropping from 5 days a week. As well, elective sedation requests will be put on hold until further notice, and planned C-sections will only be provided in the early morning and no longer in the early afternoon. Chief of Staff Dr. Bradley Jacobson says these changes will have an impact as the anesthesia department's role at the regional is crucial.
We're the go-to facility for the sickest of the sick in the region. And if we can't provide adequate anesthesia services, that has far-reaching effects with every surgical specialty, even within the intensive care unit, as well with the emergency department if we, encounter significant airway difficulties.
Jacobson says the staff shortages have been escalating over the years, leading to this point, but they are working with medical affairs, senior leadership, and the regional partners to recruit anesthetists, anesthesia assistants, and support staff to hopefully offer patients more services in the near future.
Moving forward, that ball is, rolling very quickly as far as the recruitment of more staff to come and help within our anesthesia department. And that includes some of our allied health professionals, respiratory therapists, and anesthesia assistants as well.
Jacobson says most affected will be non-urgent procedures as they will likely be pushed back, but with the addition of locum opportunities run through Ontario Health, it enables them to recruit and maintain a locum pool that comes up to Thunder Bay to deliver short-term relief. Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.
A Thunder Bay murder trial wrapped up today at the city courthouse, but a verdict won't be delivered for several months. 26-year-old Jonathan Yellowhead has pleaded not guilty to manslaughter in connection with the death of the 17-year-old Braden Jacob in December of 2018. The Webequie youth was in the city for an appointment when he went missing and was later found dead at Chapels Park. Today, lawyers for the Crown and the defense made their final submissions. Yellowhead's lawyer argued that city police were under pressure to make an arrest and didn't look at other potential suspects. The full court details can be found on tbnewswatch.com. The parties will be back in the courtroom on May 30th when the judge will announce a date for her verdict.
City Council had a lengthy debate last night on the fairness of holding town hall and ward meetings during a municipal election campaign. Also yesterday, the new zoning bylaw saw more discussion before eventually getting the seal of approval. Vasilios Bellows reports.
City councilors engaged in a serious discussion Monday night regarding the appropriateness of ward and town hall meetings with a fall election looming. Councillor Trevor Gertuga brought forward a motion that would eliminate these meetings during the municipal election period, which starts May 2nd. He believes they provide advantages to councillors seeking re-election as they allow an opportunity for self-promotion.
The rationale is it would give an unfair advantage to people that are currently the incumbents. So the incumbents already have a leg up on everyone else just because they are incumbents, and that's statistically that's true.
But the majority of other councillors were quick to voice their opposition of Gertuga's request.
I'm not comfortable with not being able to communicate with the public for 6 months before an election, which is kind of what this would do. I don't think it gives us any really terribly unfair advantage to communicate with those who wish to communicate with us.
And our job doesn't stop on nomination day. Our job continues. In fact, our job continues until inauguration.
The motion was eventually voted down 7-2, with only Gertuga and Councillor Peng Yu voting in favor. However, there will be some changes regarding these ward meetings, as public notices will not feature a councillor's name or image during the election period. The other big topic of Monday's meeting was the seal of approval officially being placed on the new zoning bylaw, which is expected to accelerate urban infill. Councillor Rebecca Johnson stated that while it is not perfect, it addresses many of the needs of Thunder Bay.
issues were raised when it was an open session, and they have been addressed. Have they been addressed to everybody's 100% satisfaction? Probably not. But I feel really comfortable with moving this whole bylaw forward in the fact that the issues that we'll call them still outstanding, will be addressed.
Now that the zoning bylaw has been approved, it will enter a 20-day appeal period, in which parties that commented on the bylaw throughout the public process will be able to launch an appeal. Vasilios Bellows, TBT News.
As we first told you last week, work has begun to improve Thunder Bay's Pool 6 dock for the arrival of cruise ships this summer. Those initial upgrades will soon be augmented thanks to some major help from the province. It's providing $1.2 million for the waterfront project. That money from the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund covers almost half of the $2.5 million total price tag for the work. 2 different contractors are set up at the former Pool 6 elevator site. One is clearing rubble, while the other is upgrading the dock so that cruise ships can safely tie up to it this summer. The funds will cover both aesthetic and functional work, like creating a new road to the dock and bringing electricity to the site. Tourism manager Paul Pepe says the construction meets the immediate needs on the site in advance of the first ships.
This year is really about, creating a safe, secure environment for the vessel and the guests, welcoming, by cleaning up the site, and then kind of positioning it in a flexible way so that future development considerations, can be implemented without having to necessarily rip all that work up.
The majority of the work will be done in time for the first stop of the Viking Octantis on May 26.
The Home Hardware store on Memorial Avenue is getting some major renovations that were put on pause during the pandemic. The local owners believe their project is a sign that things are returning to normal and that Thunder Bay's economy can start to rebound. Corey Nordstrom has more.
It may not look like it at this point, but the lumberyard directly beside the Home Hardware is being upgraded into a major addition onto the main store at a cost of roughly $2 million. When all is said and done, the larger renovated facility will offer a first-of-its-kind service for those in Thunder Bay.
We're going to have a completely indoor lumberyard for our customers. It'll improve their shopping experience. They can come into the store, they can order their lumber, they can order their drywall, they can order their building materials, head out the door, go into the drive-thru, pick up the material from the comfort of the indoors.
Store owner Chris Sauer has imagined the new design for 3.5 years, believing that it would be best for the customers and help boost the brand of the store.
It's going to improve Home Hardware's image in Thunder Bay. We're going to go from a tired, older store to the most modern, up-to-date facility in Thunder Bay.
Along with the work outdoors, the store has begun a full transformation of its interior as well. The pandemic may have delayed the major work outside, but it allowed Sauer and his crew to get started updating a number of departments. And while the sign out front may say that the store is open during its renovations, there will be some delays for customers.
We're fully open. There will be some inconveniences. Right now, our contractor entrance is closed. The contractors have to come in the front door. Starting at some point next week, our front entrance is going to be closed, and everyone will be coming in the back door.
The new indoor lumberyard will be fully complete in September. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
The Ford government is coming under fire after it was revealed today that Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Kieran Moore, was on vacation last week as COVID-19 cases were rising here in Ontario. Siobhan Morris has the details.
The plea to bring back mask mandates in Ontario classrooms has been coming from educators and some doctors.
Why isn't the Premier listening to those folks? Why isn't he listening to the experts at Public Health Ontario, his own science table, our education system, in order to protect our kids from COVID?
Ontario's top doctor and health minister reasoned that the risk of kids getting sick with COVID-19 and winding up in hospital is low. An advocacy group speaking for the province's school boards is also trying to keep enough staff healthy to keep in-person learning viable through the spring.
So we've seen some shortages in the past, but this is bigger. And administration is trying to fill in, essential staff is trying to fill in, retired teachers. There just aren't enough.
School board trustees in Halton, Hamilton, and Ottawa are discussing the possibility of making masks mandatory. The message from the Ministry of Education:
Mask mandates are considered a medical decision and school boards cannot make medical decisions.
The Ministry of Health says local public health agencies do have that power, but some of those doctors feel that only a top-down approach would really work.
Dr. Moore and his entire team are actively following this situation with respect to masking in the province of Ontario.
Individuals can access.
We learned Tuesday that as the sixth wave of the pandemic took hold, Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health was on a personal trip last week.
Why do people not get the information they need from this government and instead wonder what's really going on?
The Minister of Health insists information flowed just fine.
While Dr. Moore was away, we had an acting Chief Medical Officer of Health in Dr. Murdy, as well as 5 Assistant Medical Officers of Health who were closely following the situation in Ontario, and Dr. Moore was in regular contact with them.
The opposition isn't begrudging the province's top doctor a breather, but
it was bad timing. There's a total lack of transparency.
We need the Premier to be honest with people, not only about where Dr. Moore is, but honest with people about the steps the government is going to take to contain the spread of this virus and ensure that we protect people and our healthcare system.
A system that could see the number of patients in ICU triple in the weeks to come.
That was CTV's Siobhan Morris. Well, here in our city, COVID-19 hospitalizations are down today at the Regional Health Sciences Centre. There are now 17 people in hospital with the virus, 2 fewer than yesterday. 5 of those patients are in intensive care. The hospital's occupancy rate is 103%, while the occupancy rate in the ICU is 86%. There was a big bump in the number of vaccine shots administered last week across the Thunder Bay district as Ontario expanded 4th dose eligibility last Thursday. 1,163 doses were administered last week. That's up from just over 500 shots the week before. According to the Ministry of Health, 89.6% of people in the district aged 5 and up have received at least 1 dose, while 85.7% have gotten at least 2 shots.
The Port of Thunder Bay welcomed its first 2 vessels of the 2022 shipping season at the end of March. And today, the port hosted a virtual event to officially celebrate the opening of navigation. A variety of speakers discussed the impacts of the previous shipping year and what lies ahead for 2022. Despite multiple challenges faced last year, the port still moved 9 million tons of cargo, with grain totals still above the 10-year average. Port Authority CEO Tim Heaney says they're very optimistic for the 2022 season, as they're forecasting a return to a 5-year average or higher, along with new opportunities such as the return of cruise ships to Thunder Bay. The guest speaker was the president of Algoma Central Corporation. Greg Rule says he's also optimistic, but adds continued development is key for a successful shipping season in Thunder Bay.
We need to continue to invest. Like I said, if we want resiliency in our supply chain, we can't wait for the perfect solution. We can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We need to continue to invest in new ships and new infrastructure.
We're also starting to see increased lineups for potash already going forward for export. And we see a very positive year ahead for project cargo and continuing inbound fertilizer shipments. We'll see wind turbines this year in fair volumes we haven't seen for a while, and continued strong steel, rail, and project cargo.
Okay, let's take a look at the weather now, turning to